Hello, welcome to the tutorial video that explains how to set up integrations with hospital systems on the PMcardio for Organizations platform. In front of me, I have the platform open. I am logged into the PM Hospital tenant, Medical Hospital, so you have the domain pmhospital.pmcardio.com. I also have super admin permissions. These are the permissions you need in order to set up integrations. We're going to set them up in the user interface initially, and we are going to build first a very simple integration using a simple curl command and run it on in the terminal on the command line to sort of demystify how the integration works under the hood. But we're also going to set up an integration in Mirth. So I have Mirth running here, and we're going to create a channel. We're going to set the channel up to connect to PMcardio for Organizations. So we're going to send a sample ECG through it into the platform. While this demo does show you how to set it up in Mirth, the principle is very similar to any other integration system that you have at the hospital. Most hospitals have one. If you're not sure which one you have at your institution, contact the IT department. They will most likely know exactly which one you have. Let's get on it then. First, we're going to head over to the PMcardio for Organizations platform, and we're going to head over to the Service Accounts tab. We're going to need a service account in order to grant the integration engine access into the platform. So I'm going to quickly add a service account. I'm going to call it Mirth Demo or Mirth Integration Demo. I give it very small permissions. It needs very little permissions. The only thing it really needs is this account can ingest ECG files. This one needs to be checked. It doesn't need to view ECGs. It doesn't need to create ECGs. All it needs to do is be able to ingest ECGs through the integration endpoint. So we go ahead and create the service account, and the service account appears in the list. Now we open the service account up and we arrive here. The section is a little bit hidden, but if you scroll down, you'll see this API key section, and we will need to create an API key. We click Create API Key, we give it some name, Mirth API Key, and I will give it, say, 365 days duration before it expires. You click Create API Key, and now make sure to keep this API key safe. This will only be displayed once. If you lose it, you'll have to generate another one. It's not too much of a problem, but you are not going to be able to retrieve one after this little window, this little pop-up vanishes. So I'm going to click Copy, which copies it to the clipboard, and I'm going to close this little pop-up. We can now head over to the curl command that we prepared earlier, and we can put the API key into a header called authorization. It is a bearer token, so we place the API key in here. We also have to fill in the domain. The domain is what you will find up in the URL bar, so I'm going to copy the URL from here. It's pmhospital.pmcardio.com. You might have something, you will have something different here, but the pmcardio.com is going to stay the same for everyone. So I'm going to copy that. I will paste it in here. And you'll see we have pmhospital.pmcardio.com/API/ECG/ingest. This is the path of the integration endpoint. Also make sure to have HTTPS for security reasons. I'm going to organize the windows a little bit so we make it easier to see what's going on. We have on the right the platform, and on the left we have the curl command. I've also prepared a sample ECG file. This is a publicly available demo file from the internet. So the lead data is a little bit funky, but it is a valid HL7 version 3 file. The integration supports a lot of different formats. We support HL7 version 3, HL7 version 2. We also support GE, Muse, XMLs. For this example, we're going to use an HL7 version 3 ECG, but you can follow these exact same steps for any of the other listed formats. I've got the name of the file, the curated sample ECG.xml, in the curl command here as the data field that I will be posting to the integration endpoint. We can go ahead and run this curl command in the terminal, just like that. It returns an ingest file ID, which is fine. We don't need this at the moment, but we're going to go in here into the integrations tab of the platform, and we're going to find an ingested files tab containing the one report that we just sent in. Now, this is where it is currently located. You can also download the data if you want. You see when it was ingested. This is February 28th, 2025, which is today. And you can also see some additional data that was parsed from the file when it was ingested. Crucially, when you set this up initially, this is the only list the file appears in. it will not appear in the reports. It only appears in the integrations tab, which is only available to the super admins. If I go to reports and I search through all hospital reports, you will see there is no record of it here yet. And this is because we haven't mapped the ECG machine to the location itself. Institutions tend to have a large amount of ECG machines, and not all ECG recordings are relevant to everyone. It depends on which location they are. For example, ECGs recorded in the neurology department are not relevant to the ED department, and vice versa. So we want to make sure that the proper reports are routed to the proper location in PMcardio for organizations. And for this, we use the machine ID to map the machine to the proper location. So let's go ahead and do that. If we go back to the integrations tab and we look at the ingested files tab, we see the file that came in just now. And if we look at the data, we're going to see the machine name right here. I'm going to copy this machine name with a Control-C, and I'm going to head over to Machines, the Machines tab, and I will add an extra machine. The machine name is the one I just copied, and I can choose a location into which I want to route the incoming ECGs, and I will pick the emergency department. I will add the machine, and the machine is now successfully added. So any new ECGs that come in will get routed to the emergency department location, and they will appear in the Reports tab. It is worth noting that if I was to now submit this exact same ECG again, it would identify it as a duplicate because it has already received it once, and it would not actually appear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some trickery, and I'm going to change one of the values in the leads to a different one to make the system view it and see it as a new ECG recording. Now, if I send the ECG with the exact same command that we used earlier, the ECG will not only appear in the ingested files list like that, it will also appear in the Reports tab right there. We see it has finished processing. We can see the created by field is set to the Mirth integration demo, which is the name of the service account we set up earlier. And if we look inside, we will see all the information as we see from a regular ECG. As I mentioned, the data is made up dummy data. All the leads are the same lead, but when you set up the integration proper, it will show a full ECG as it was recorded by the machine. So that's the simplest possible integration you can build. And I provide the curl command for you to look over so you understand what it takes to integrate something. But most institutions, and you probably included, will want to set an integration up in the integration engine, which is where the Mirth that we have comes in. We're going to set up the Mirth integration based on this content of the curl query. So we're going to bring Mirth back up, and we're going to set up the integration in Mirth. This Mirth installation is completely empty. You are most likely going to have some channels in this Channels tab, but I will have to create a new channel from scratch. I will call it PMcardio for Organizations, and I will now go ahead and configure it. At your institution, your channel will likely already exist, so the Source tab will already be filled out with whatever the ECGs are coming into Mirth or your integration engine from. The important thing we need to set up is the destination. And the destination for PMcardio for Organizations is set up as follows. First, make sure to set the connector type to HTTP sender. We will be sending an HTTP request to the PMcardio for Organizations ingestion endpoint. Next, we need to fill out the URL. We can find the URL in the curl command we used earlier. It's this URL right here. Everything from HTTPS all the way up to API ECG ingest at the end. We will copy that, and we will place it into the URL section here. It will complain about the SSL configuration, but it's only complaining about the two-sided authentication. In other words, PMcardio for Organizations cannot authenticate you via solely HTTPS. This is not a problem, however, because we have the authorization header to serve that same purpose, which is what we're going to configure next. I'm going to scroll down here to the headers section, and we're going to add a new header. The header is the same one that we used in the curl query. So the name is authorization. I will copy that and I will put it into the property name. So that's the header name. And the value, we're going to copy everything, including bearer. So it is bearer space your API key. I will copy that and I will place it into the value section, just like that. This sets up the authentication, Next, we have to set up the content. And this is something people frequently forget. Make sure not to forget about the content section when you're setting up the integration. In Mirth, we have to put in the encoded data. I will click and drag that in here. And with that done, the channel is finished. I can now go ahead and deploy the channel using the deploy channel button here. This will save it and deploy it. You can now see the channel exists. It says status is started, and we can now test it out. I'm going to right click it and click send message. That opens up a testing screen, and we can input a text file. So we do open text file, and we can select the curated sample ECG that I have available. It's the same one that we used earlier. To differentiate them, I am going to set the patient number to 123456, so it's different from the previous one that arrived, and I will also modify again one of the values in the signal to make sure it is not considered the same or a duplicate of the previously sent ECG. And with that, we click process message. The ECG has now been sent to the PMcardio for Organizations platform, so let's take a look at whether it arrived. In the platform, we'll filter for all PM hospital ECGs, and we will see, there we go. It's the new one that arrived just now. Report, patient ID 123456, and it came again from the Mirth integration demo, but this time it was directly sent by Mirth to the integration endpoint. If we open it up, we can see it's the same ECG again. So that's it. That's how you set up an integration between Mirth and PMcardio for Organizations. There is one more thing I will show you how to do though, and that is how to deal with it if it doesn't work as smoothly as it worked in this demo. I understand that not all integrations are easy to set up, so I will show you how you can figure out what is going wrong if you're having trouble setting it up. I'm again going to move the screens around a little bit to give us a good view of both. And I'm going to use the curl query that we used before to show you how to deal with it if something isn't working. I'm going to go to the integration section, and I'm going to go to the ingested files. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to intentionally remove something important. For example, I can take an entire lead and I can remove it. Something is wrong with the file. And I will say, let's send that file over and let's see what goes wrong. I will copy that command, I will put it in here, and I will send that file yet again. And now when we look into the ingested files, we will see a file that comes up as failed. You can see that it's impossible to show the data because the file wasn't parsed properly. You can download the file and see what the content was. I'm going to download the file just like that, and I'm going to open it up. You can investigate and inspect the content of the file to figure out what was wrong, but there is something better you can do. And this requires mild technical knowledge, but I'm pretty sure most people can figure it out. I'm going to expand this screen a little bit. We're going to copy this ingest ID. I will copy that, and I will replace the path in the URL with API/docs. And this will take you to an interactive documentation page where you can call the API of the PMcardio for Organizations backend directly. And there is a very specific endpoint down here that I want you to see. It is the get admin ECG ingest file ID. If you open that up and you click try it out, you can put in the ID that we copied and you can ask the backend what went wrong. And it will give you a list of failures. The ingestion endpoint attempts to parse the file as all the known files. It will parse it as muse.xml, as HL7 version 2, and HL7 version 3. You're sending in HL7 version 3, and the error that comes up is a missing expected sequence in rhythm leads. In other words, it is lacking some of the rhythm leads from the ECG recording. And you can then look into your file and try to figure out whether that is the problem. This is the place where you can look to figure out why your integration isn't working. It will try to give you a best guess as to what it is that went wrong in the parsing process. You can see that as it was attempting other formats, for example, HL7 version 2, it will inform you of the mistakes and errors in that file, namely the message header is missing as it is usually present in HL7 version 2 files. And GE_muse.xml, for example, is an XML file, so it did manage to parse that, but it could not find the sampling frequency in the place where it would expect it in a GE_muse.xml. So if at any point your integration isn't working, make sure to look into the ingested files tab, find the IDs of the ingested file that is failing, and use the API docs page to figure out what went wrong. And that's all there is to it. Building an integration with PMcardio for organizations is relatively straightforward, and I wish you the best of luck. If at any point you have problems, feel free to message us at support@powerfulmedical.com, and we will very gladly get back to you and help you walk you through the process of setting it up. We're open to jumping on calls with clients, making sure you have everything you need to set it up as you need it at your institution. Thank you.